Okay, hi pals, I'm Casey, and today I'm gonna do the mid-year book freakout tag. If you're new here in Casey, I do all the things that other booktubers do, and that's gonna include the mid-year freakout tag today. This is really fun, I enjoy doing this one, and I've seen a couple videos of people doing this. I never remember what the prompts are, so let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so what I should have done before I started this was gotten Storygraph up so I could look through all the books that I've read this year so far, because the first one was the best book you've read this year, and I don't know off the top of my head what that is. I have my favorite book that I've read this year. I'll talk about that while I'm scrolling through here. My favorite 5-star read of the year has to go to You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Ely and Chami, which I know is such a hot take. A lot of people really hate this, but I really loved it so much. I think it was just so good, and it was so messy, but in such an entertaining and compelling way, and I love Faye so much, and I want all the best things for her. I think she's incredible, and I hope, you know, she's living her best life in her fictional world. Okay, I can't get my copy down because it's way up there. I will say, truly, some of the best things I have read this year have to be Minor Detail by Adania Shibley, and I think it's Shibley, I think I said that with a P instead of a B, and The 100 Years War on Palestine. Both of these are from Palestinian authors, and they're just really incredible. Minor Detail is fiction, and The 100 Years War on Palestine is nonfiction. They're both so fucking good. Minor Detail is one of the most harrowing and sad things I've ever read, and The 100 Years War in Palestine is one of the most frustrating things I've ever read in my life, while also being one of the most informative, and both are just incredibly good, and I think they do have to go up there with just purely best things I've read so far this year. Ooh, okay, so the next one is the best sequel that I've read so far in 2024. This is a very, very short list. I haven't read a lot of sequels. Hold on, I can grab it. This one I'm gonna say is The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. This is the last book in the Broken Earth trilogy, and honestly, I really love this. I cried at the end. I thought it was very good, and I had such a great time with it. It was a beautiful way to wrap up this trilogy. If you have not heard about it, okay, if you've not heard about it, I'm probably the first person telling you to read this, which I think is shocking, because this is a very well-loved trilogy, but this is fantasy. This is following I'm not gonna tell you anymore. It's just incredible, and you can look it up, and everyone else talks about it because it is so good. Okay, the next prompt or question is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. This is gonna be Little Rot by Ely and Chami. This has just come out in the last month or so, and I really want to read it, and I got very frustrated at Libby because months ago I said, notify me when any of my libraries get this book, the ebook or the audiobook version of it, and it didn't notify me, and so I didn't get to be really high on the list, so now I'm gonna have to wait several months to get my hands on it, which is perfectly fine, but also I was very disappointed in that, but I'm very excited to read this one. I love everything Emezi writes, and I can't wait to read this one. Oh, okay, so the next one is most anticipated release for the second half of 2023. What new releases are there? There's the new Stephen Graham Jones, which I think is I Was a Teenage Slasher. I love Stephen Graham Jones. I'll read anything he ever writes. Oh, there's another one. It's Hera by Jennifer Saint. I'm very excited about that. I very much enjoyed Jennifer Saint's work, and I'm very excited for there to be, for this next one. I think those are the only two I can think of immediately. The next question is my biggest disappointment in 2024. Oh my goodness, I have to think about this. Okay, I'm gonna say the 2 middle volumes of the Orochi series. This is a horror manga series, and I really loved the first one so much, and no subsequent edition of this lived up to what I thought the first one did, and I was very disappointed every time I read another one in the series, which luckily there were only 4, but it was still very frustrating. I'm also gonna say any Eric LaRocca I've read this year, which I think is just Everything the Darkness Eats and The Skin Was Once Mine. Everything the Darkness Eats was fine, but The Skin Was Once Mine was really, really disappointing. I thought it was really bad, and I had a miserable time with it, and I feel like everything I read from this author just makes me not want to read anything else from him. My biggest surprise of the year. I'm gonna say that this is probably, this is gonna be a tie between 2 books, mostly because I just want to talk about these 2. But the ones I can immediately think of are Womb City by Tolo Tomasi. It's a science fiction, horror, fantasy, like just a blender of genres, and it was really good and really entertaining, and I understand why a lot of people hate it, and I think that this was primed for me to hate, except that there was something about the way that it goes absolutely apeshit that I loved versus when normally in books that I hate. And the other one is The September House by Carissa Orlando, I believe. And it is just, this is another horror. This was a haunting house story. And honestly, I thought this was going to lean so thriller and be very like, just, I don't like thrillers. I don't like mystery thrillers. They just don't do it for me. And I thought this was going to be very similar. But in fact, it was much more of the haunted house story I always want. And I really enjoyed it and I really loved it. And both these books, I kind of thought I was going to hate going into them. So coming out at the end, having enjoyed them and really liked them and feeling like I could recommend them to people was very much a surprise. Okay, the next one is new favorite author. Do I have a new favorite author? When I think of favorite authors, I think of certain criteria. There's actually a video I want to make on this topic in particular that I haven't yet. But for me, I feel like favorite authors kind of constitute having read a certain amount of their work and enjoyed it a certain amount. And there's no author that I've read this year that wasn't already a favorite author that is now a favorite author. There are authors I'm excited to read more from. I can talk about those. Kate Folk, I read Out There, which is a collection of short stories. Really loved it. One of my favorite short story collections I've read this entire year so far. And I want to read more from her. Nana Kwame Adeje-Brenya, I really want to read more from this author. I read Friday Black, which is a series of short stories, and also Chain Gang All-Stars, which is a full novel. I really enjoyed both of those, and I'm excited to see what he comes out with next. I think that's really exciting. I will also give a mention to Sayaka Murata, who I've now read a second novel from, and I really enjoyed both novels that I've read from this author, so I really do want to read more of their work as well. Newest favorite character? Oh, I don't want to just talk about books I've already talked about. Am I gonna do that though? I think I'm gonna do that though. I think I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna give this to Faye from You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. I really love Faye. She's a fucking mess and I love that about her. And you know what? Honestly, live your best fucking life. Okay, the next one is a book that made you cry. If I'm talking about books that I haven't already talked about, I'm going to say Before Your Memory Fades by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is the third book in Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. I read these books primarily because I heard the first one was really good, I really enjoyed it, and I've just continued with the series because sometimes I want like a jump start on just like feeling emotional and just tackling something that I know that's going to make me cry, and that's what these books do. This, like, I don't know if this is a series I'm going to continue after the third book just because it's some of the messaging in here is so simplistic in you know, situations that are incredibly nuanced, but I do enjoy these books because they make me cry, and so that is what I'm going to say for this one. Oh, a book that made me happy? Oh, I'm not grabbing a lot of physical books that I have because my reading room is a mess right now. Just ignore all this over here. And so like I can't get to some of my shelves right now. But I will say a book that made me happy has to be the Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. This was wrapping up the Lake Witch trilogy. And honestly, I just was so excited to read this because I love Jade Daniels. She's one of my all-time favorite characters. And honestly, I could have just talked about rereading My Heart is a Chainsaw and crying through the entirety of that book for the previous prompt, but I really loved this, how this book ended the whole series, and it made me very happy to read. Favorite book to movie adaptation you've seen so far this year? I don't watch movies or love TV, so I don't have an answer for this one. Most beautiful book you bought this year? Okay, so I'm actually buying a lot less books this year. It's a very concerted effort, and so I've only bought like 8 books this year, and so I'm gonna give it to Ithaca by Claire North. Honestly, I just really love this kind of like pumpkin-y orange with this like brown cross-hatching that's underneath it that I don't think you can really see very well, with the gold and the black and like these leaves, and just everything about this I think is just very beautiful. What books do I really need to read by the end of this year? I'm gonna say any of the books in my 12 and 24 that I haven't read so far, which I can go get the list for, but I really don't want to right now. Currently, the biggest goal I have is to finish The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. I've started that one, but I had to give it back to my library because my hold expired, so I'm waiting to get it back again. Let me think. I don't know, that's a lot of pressure. If I put that much pressure on myself, I'm not gonna read anything. I really hope to read that. I would love to get through more of just the books I have physical copies of, and maybe a couple more anthologies this year, but that's about it. Okay, and that's the last question for the mid-year freakout tag. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I had a lot of fun. Please feel free to answer one of the questions in the comments below. I would love to hear any of your answers for any of these. I will see you next time, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Oh, also feel free to do algorithm things. Okay, bye!